Welcome to East End Community Housing. I'm Christina DeSanti, and this is my co-host, Michael Daly. And
Nice to
our
see you.
guest today is Eric Schantz, who is the Director of Housing and Community Development for the town of East Hampton.
Hi.
Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
I guess to start off, can you speak a little bit about just the difference in your position and that of the Housing Authority? Because that's the one, it's, a very simple thing, but it's confusing.
Sure. So the Housing Authority was really created as the arm of the town that will manage and develop affordable housing developments. And really mainly they focus on rentals. An easy way to, a very simple, oversimplified and abbreviated way is to say that they handle the rentals in the town. My department handles our Section 8 program, our affordable home ownership program, the administration of the new community housing fund and all the programs that fall under that. We're working on a number of code changes to, have there be more options for affordable housing in the town. So really the Housing Authority is, they are landlords and developers in part with new projects. So that's really the main distinction.
It is confusing that people are always.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So your department is gonna manage Campwell Court,
Yes.
everything, which is the new home ownership development.
Yeah, although, yes, we do manage it to a certain extent, or we will manage it after the homes are built. We are the lead right now on getting the necessary infrastructure finished, which right now we're trying to finish utility installation and a roadway. There's actually a pre-proposal meeting with contractors on Monday, who we're looking to select at least two to build the new homes on that site. So, but as a home ownership opportunity, for the most part, although there are some continuing, program requirements and things that need to be checked up on, we do have it set up for obvious reasons of, it's a home ownership model.
Sure.
So it's not as intensive in terms of continuous maintenance, monitoring of it as a rental would be, where you're collecting rent on a monthly basis, checking to make sure the household size and the individuals in the household are those that were approved. So yes, we do manage it. We do the record keeping of it. We sort of, set the program requirements for it. We're in charge of, effectuating the new opportunities that we have, Campwell Court included. But I just wanted to, so it's, because it's one of those things of, when you do provide a home ownership opportunity to someone and to a family, that's sort of a different animal where you want, the most important thing is setting it up ahead of time for its success,
Right.
which also includes vetting the finances of the individuals that are going to be getting those homes, because the town does take a risk in their land investment on those individual properties. But so
But it's
just making.
different from the apartments, like your two most recent projects completed. You had the Gansett Green a few years ago opened, and then they have the Green at Gardener's Point, the new apartments. We have the pictures up. So those are run by the Housing Authority once they're up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and in both cases, the development was handled by the Housing Authority.
Right,
So,
okay. Okay,
The
so that wasn't your.
permitting, design, all of that stuff. Yeah. So,
Okay.
we have a hand in it in the sense that some of those units, the tenants will be Section 8 voucher holders. So we have involvement in that, and then also with the Green at Gardener's Point, my department now has more involvement simply by virtue of the fact that they've requested additional funding through the community
Right,
housing
which
fund.
we'll,
So
we'll talk about that in a minute for sure. And both of those projects, by the way, amazing, and green
Yeah.
projects, they really did a nice job on those.
and you can see that in those photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the new CHF tax, the Community Housing Fund tax, which has accrued about $10 million roughly since 8 to 10 million?
I could give you an exact figure. I have it in my pocket, but it's just over 11 million as of today.
Okay.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so I was watching the town board work session the other day, and it looks like they went through the 5 requests that for grant money.
Mhm.
So, and it looks like they're looking like they're going to approve those. Did you want to talk a little bit about some of those? Like, they're all very different too. Route 114, middle housing, which is new housing. And then there's some rehabilitation more along the lines of, for like Wellbone Apartments, the cottages, and which are also apartments and being rehabbed, and then the Windmill One, which is senior housing, which is another expansion. So that is giving us like 20 more units.
Hopefully and possibly. So I guess I'll start with that. And the Windmill One expansion project was, they were basically, we created the opportunity for them to ask for the funding and do that project by amending the town code. The town board recently amended the code. The old provision used to be that you couldn't do more than 8 units per acre for senior and non-senior affordable housing units in a development. The town board changed that, really in large way to coordinate with what the health department allows for senior housing units. So as we sit here today, the code has been amended to allow up to 12 units per acre for senior housing developments, which basically means, you do the math, Windmill One is a 40-unit development. We've increased the allowable density by, half again as much as was allowed. So they're asking for, they're applying for the opportunity to add 20 units.
Right.
Obviously, they'll still need to go through the planning board and site plan approval, our architectural review board. So it's not a foregone conclusion that they would get 20 units, but in theory, the code has been amended and they do have the yield on that property for that amount. And obviously,
So if they're
ideally,
successful
we
in
would
getting
love
it approved, then the town will give the grant money as long as they
Their
accept the
specific,
resolutions.
their specific request was actually for money for the planning side of
The
things.
soft costs.
Yeah, the soft costs, exactly, which differs from the other 4 requests, really, in that theirs was entirely for money up front so that they could go through that process, because it is an expensive process.
Right.
Sure. We had Kathy on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, Kathy Burns. Yeah.
Kathy Burns, and she was really excited and grateful for just the opportunity to explore that, adding some additional units to those developments.
And she and Jerry Mooney have been great, and obviously we've been in conversation about it and what the process is and what they can do in theory, but so that's one of the many upcoming projects that we're looking forward to seeing and seeing where it goes.
Yeah. So
And the
that's
middle housing,
terrific.
that's really important. So having the Route 114, middle housing seems to be where we're, lacking the most at this point.
Yeah,
It's a challenge.
yeah, it's a tricky thing because obviously you look at providing housing that is still affordable housing, but is in the higher end of the affordability bracket. We need that. There's a lot of focus on it. I think there's a perception among many people in the community that is where all of the attention should be focused. But I think it is really important when you're considering all these things to consider that, the people, just in a purely numbers sense, the people that are most in need of housing are the people on, probably in the lower end of those incomes. So it's one of those things where there has been a lot of focus recently on providing that. And the entire intention of the town's acquisition of that property, its transfer to the housing authority to develop the project, is to do one that is, sometimes colloquially referred to as workforce housing.
Right.
But, on that higher end of things. But, I was at the Express Sessions meeting yesterday, and, community, I believe I was saying this, the community's made up of people in all different sectors
Right.
of business. Yes, it might be most apparent when you see, teachers, medical personnel who might be on that higher end leaving town, but the community's made up of people in all income brackets and that work all different jobs. So I think that, even though this is something new, so I think there's a lot of focus on it, we need to still continue to provide, housing units that are affordable to
Right.
everybody.
It needs to be a multi-pronged approach, and I think it's smart to not pit different constituencies against each other. So our seniors need housing, our workforce needs housing, our veterans need housing, our lower income people. So I think, everyone needs housing.
That's
at
what
this point,
happens,
including the middle.
in social media and there's always somebody who'll say, well, what about these people? And then what about those people? When you're doing low income, they're gonna say, well, what about me? I couldn't qualify for affordable housing because I make too much. Me and my wife, together, we make just over what's available for there. So
We run into that a lot with teachers, even the younger
Right.
teachers starting out. If a teacher is married and you have two, decent salaries coming in, you can't afford a house here, but, so there is that middle income that is really falling through the cracks.
And one of the things that I've been working on, in particular with Ian Calder-Piedmont of the town board, is a potential new use in the code that would, although it wouldn't meet the definition of affordable housing, because in East Hampton, we set that as 130% of area
130.
median income. There are many people that make just above that. The average cost of a home is, I think the average was something like 2.3 million
Yeah.
but
The
really,
median was like 1.5
Yeah.
or 6, so.
but a starter home, something you could reasonably expect to find on the open market is probably only, starting around 800,000, $1 million. So there's a large gap there, and there's a certain amount of income that you need to make to be able to afford a home there. So
Right.
there's a certain gap there that exists between the family that is at the threshold of affordable housing and the amount of money that they need to make to be able to afford one of those homes. So
Right.
we've been working on a new use in the town code that would provide an opportunity, for those families that would have an income restriction that wouldn't be true affordable housing at 130%. But that would be a little bit higher, that would get them to the point of where they could afford something that is reasonably available on the open market,
Right.
but still not make enough that they can otherwise afford something that is out there, so.
Well, making smaller lots available would be something that would allow the market to do that. I mean, we've upzoned so much over the years, it's crazy. I'm not gonna put you on the spot in terms of asking you if that, but,
Wait for
So
Kathy for that one.
yeah, we were talking, you're talking about AMI, and for our listeners, could you just generalize about what AMI is? And then do you have a rough ballpark of what 100% AMI is right now? I have an idea, but so that, because we talk in acronyms sometimes, those of
Yeah.
us who know what's
Right.
going on in this field, and some people may need a little more in depth.
Sure. So, and I mean, that's part of the problem, I guess, is that area median income is set by HUD, by the federal government. It's based off the Nassau-Suffolk area.
Right.
So obviously, there is a great discrepancy in not only incomes, but the cost of homes throughout those two counties. So when they said it's for the entire area. Out here, the cost of homes is so exorbitant that you need to have a higher income even to be able to come near being able to afford it. So the town years ago set our maximum income limit for affordable housing at 130% of area median income. It's roughly right now, I would say, I think if I remember correctly, 100% of area median income, so the median as set by HUD, is about $98,000 a year of income for a two-person household, I believe.
Okay.
I would be lying
Which
if
is
I said I
not
remember the numbers
realistic out here,
exactly.
yeah.
Ballpark is good
Yeah.
enough. So about $100,000 for a couple is the area median income established for Long Island, right? But then our local area may not have that same AMI or area median income, but those are the numbers that we have to use, Nassau and Suffolk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
So the town tweaks that a little bit by doing some of them, making them 130% as their cap, which gives you a little bit more, but it's still really kind of way under
Exactly.
for what
Yeah,
you
for what's
need
out there.
to make out here to survive. I mean, people making 250,000 is kind of the number where you need to be when you start looking at to
Yeah.
qualify for a mortgage for, $1.5 million house.
But the need is so great, we need to address each one of those AMIs from 30%, under 30%, up to 130%. And what you were just saying is we need to go even higher than that because of the availability and the cost of homes.
Well, I don't know that we need to, I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to put it. Because, the problem with this too is we can set a number, whatever we'd like in our municipality, but a lot of times developments are entirely dependent upon outside funding, whether it be from the state or the county. They have limitations that are set. And so, you don't want to get too far away from saying, if you make twice the area median income, this is affordable housing. Something that's, lower, or lower incomes might still not be able to afford it. So you're getting into a conflict of terminology there of affordable housing. But once you get above that, you're not affordable housing as most, housing entities at various levels of government would deem it, and then you become ineligible for certain financing, which obviously, so
But yet you still can't afford the house.
well, yes.
I mean, that's the conundrum, really, out here.
Well, just keep going because
Yeah.
you're doing a great job and the town is doing a great job. I mean, and I know feels like you're probably drinking out of a fire hose sometimes, but
Yeah, well,
But you're hitting everything too, like, we can talk a little bit about the ADUs, Campwell Court, a nice mix of single-family homes, and the apartments and adding the ADUs. And then I know that you just recently began, with the down payment assistance program.
Yeah.
You just awarded like the first couple, right?
yeah, so we only started that late in 2024. We opened up an application process. We've issued two grants, and that's a loan of up to $30,000. It's only for down payment and closing costs. It has to be for a home that is, which I think is actually a somewhat high threshold, but it is established by the state law, the Community Housing Fund law of $1.6 million. The individual has to income qualify, be an eligible individual, and meet the income qualification listed in the Community Housing Fund law. But we have issued two of those. We do it by giving a certificate so that the individual can go out and find a home that meets that requirement.
Because the lender is gonna wanna see that, so in other
Yeah.
words, you give them a certificate. And then how is it paid back? Is that one of the ones that is when you sell the house paid
Exactly.
back later?
Yep, so no interest, paid back in full at the time of the resale of the home.
that's great. That's a
Yeah.
great provision to do it at payback upon sale because otherwise you're just layering another loan onto
Yeah.
Right,
somebody
you're
who's
just
already
making it more and more
struggling to.
underwater,
And,
right?
I should say too, because I said we've issued the certificate for two of them. We have 5 that are pending, and then we have another 2. So
Good.
the town board had provisionally set aside about $600,000, so essentially 20 of those for.
From CHF funds?
Yeah, from
Okay.
CHF funds for 2024. We did the same for 2025. So we feel that we have essentially 7 of them that were granted in that short window in 2024.
Right.
So it seems that it is something that the public is taking advantage of. And I'm, enthusiastic that for 2025, we will, that, not that this is necessarily a good thing, but that we will get to those 20 and then there will be a call for more of them.
Right.
It's not good that there's.
Well, every little
not
bit
enough.
helps, even if it only
Sure.
helps with your closing costs. I mean, the down payments, I think also when a lot of older people that I speak to, who bought houses out here 30 years ago, they put down 20,000 and bought their house. So they don't understand that a down payment now for a young couple on a starter home can be a couple of $100,000
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point, plus your closing costs. So I think that's, another way of being able to be helpful.
You said that the limit is $1.6 million, which you thought is high. I think it's high too. I remember 3 years ago, I was looking that number up and I remembered the number, it was $1,209,000 that we were able to consider as affordable that would be eligible for first-time home buyer, and I said, oh my God, 1,209,000. Now it's 1,600,000 because everything
It's just
continues
snowballing.
to rise, you know?
Right.
And it's, I mean, without giving the sort of political policy thing, it's a great thing that there are so many people that want to come into the community, but,
Sure.
many of them, and not to disparage them, but many of them are second homeowners. They're not people that are necessarily working 9 to 5 jobs, throughout the year, and there are basic services that are needed in the town, and that needs staffing. And
Right.
if those people can't live here, one of the obvious things that everyone points out to is the trade parade and the amount of traffic that's on the road. That's not how you make a healthy community, is to
Right.
make everyone have to drive and sit in traffic for
Right.
2 hours. So we're trying our best to reverse that tide, but it's full of challenges.
Well, and even I give the town credit too, because they are also working on things, you're sort of hitting it from every angle. I know Kathy and Adam Fine from our high school and Fred Thiel were working with the MTA on the whole, adding more trains and things like that, doing the hopper, trying to also work on the commuting end to alleviate a little bit. So it's not like you're just focusing on the affordable housing. There's so many other things that they really
Yeah.
are working on. And I know you mentioned also that the town is talking about purchasing some lots from the county.
Yeah, so there's 4 individual properties. The county has a 72H program, is the name of it. It's basically properties that are delinquent on taxes that the county reclaims. They make available for auction, and they give preference to, or, they offer them directly to local municipalities. So we have 4 properties throughout the town in various locations. They total just over 14 acres. But really, it's probably better to think of it as 2 of them are sort of standalone, one single-family residence could be built on them. The other 2 are larger properties that could, in theory, be subdivided and essentially be, mini versions of the Campwell Court subdivision, which is 16 lots. We have one that could, in theory, provide 5, one in theory that could provide 7.
Wow.
We're right in the early stages of acquiring those properties and figuring out what needs to be done or what can be done. Obviously, that'll go through the full public process of public hearings and all that in many senses, both the acquisition, any
Right.
development plan of it, that, going through site plan or a subdivision, I should say, in this case. In all those cases, we're looking to do single-family residential development. None of them are really large enough or located in an ideal location for, a many-unit development that would, in theory, be rental. But they're very appropriate for single-family residences. That's another
And
thing.
the town did that a number of years ago. They had different small lots around town that they built on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, in fact, we have one on Morris Park Lane that we had acquired through that program a number of years ago. Had a home in it that needed to be demolished. That was done recently, and we're looking to build a new home on it. And we might be partnering with Habitat for Humanity,
Oh, that's
Great.
great.
so
Great.
which we have done in the past on other properties.
Yeah. Are there other, in terms of creative ideas, like I know we look a lot at different things that other resort similar communities are doing, and there are programs like Lease to Locals. There are places like Aspen that are giving rent subsidies to the landlords if they will take their property off of the seasonal Airbnb and rent it to, working force or local people year round. And those, at least are those things that you could possibly consider doing with the CHF funds? Because those would be more near term. When we're talking about all of these things that are being built, you're looking a few years down the road, even if you're starting today. So are there any procedures that are being considered that we could have a more immediate impact?
We don't have anything specific drafted yet, but part of the process, and, the town has, it's known as the CHAB, the Community Housing Advisory Board, which is a great board. It's been great to work with them. And we have been trying to brainstorm and, think of exactly that, other ways, ways of thinking outside the box. We, as part of, and that board, just with the fund, hasn't been around that long. So,
Right.
in its first year, really, which was this past year, we focused on giving grants and opening up the fund for, those 5 projects that we were talking about. We started talking
Right.
about windmill. And then also looking to create an ADU construction program, accessory dwelling unit construction program, loan program, I should say, and the first-time home buyer down payment assistance program. That was, sort of, the focus was narrowed in the first year to that. But, as with any fund and board, one of the prudent things to do is, at the end of the year, at the end of those cycles and windows that you've opened up the applications, to take a look at those programs, see what the reception has been, see what the obstacles are as far as the administration. A lot of this stuff, so somewhat goes without saying, but I'll say it, that the administration of them is very difficult and
Yeah.
very complex. You're dealing with multiple levels of government, multiple municipalities. Joanne Pilgrim in my office has done a great job of really being
Yeah.
the main person that day in, day out is administering these programs. So we fully intend that in the next, the earliest meetings in 2025, that the
start
CHAB is going to
exploring the
be,
next few things,
having
right.
those discussions and seeing what we can do and what
And
what
what
the
works
public
in other
wants.
places, maybe like Nantucket is very similar. They have some programs, Aspen, there's
Cape
someplace else
Cod,
someplace else in Massachusetts too, that are similar, and they're all starting to do these, and maybe you take what works already there and.
And closer to our doorstep of Southampton
Mhm.
is, I forget if they've opened it or if they're about to. They do have a proposal to use the community housing fund for what you were basically talking about, which is an affordability covenant or easement, which would be
Right.
something where the difference between the sort of open market rent that you could get and
Right.
what is
Sure.
deemed an affordable rent, the
Right.
gap would be covered by whether it be a
Right, be a
voucher
subsidy,
or,
right.
or a covenant over
Right.
the property that is, purchased from the owner,
Right.
to effectuate that. So that's absolutely something we're gonna look at.
Okay.
Southampton is already looking at that, and I should mention too that Carabach over in Southampton has been great.
Yeah.
And, we're both,
We're actually out of time, I think.
No.
Well, we're running
Sorry to
out of
interrupt you,
time,
Yeah.
But we
but
could,
we could.
we could talk about this all day.
yeah,
That's wonderful. Thank you for.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll have you back another time if you'd like to talk more in depth.
Just all hands on housing, just like Scott Bluedorn's picture there, that's what East Hampton has really established, and we congratulate you and thanks for coming and being
Thank
with us
you.
today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.